Alright guys, welcome back. Episode 10 of the build now. We'll be putting the diff in this episode and machining out the wheels. I'll show you how that's all done. That's about it. It's been a pretty big job doing this rear end. After this, we can pull the motor out and then we'll rebuild that to suit, you know, the big cam and stuff, and then from there we can drive the thing. It's getting pretty close now, I think anyway, so stay tuned. Okay, so I've put on the spring mounts, as you can see. They've just been welded on one side. I checked them all out using a digital protractor, but I recently just dropped that and it broke. But I've made up these little brackets that go there. That is welded there. That shadow makes it look like it's not, but that's welded. So here's the bracket. Oops. They just sit on there like this and then weld it on. I'll also make a different bracket for this side as it's a bit higher for the spring, but that's cool. So that's how that's looking. And I have also welded just a little bit in here. I'm not going to weld the whole inside, doesn't really need it. With the outside in, you know, like 25-30 mil of weld on each one of these, it's not really going anywhere. So yeah, making pretty good progress. Get these on, we'll get the Panhard Bar bit on, and also the spring mounts, and then after that we can give this a big clean off and then paint it up nice and shiny black. Okay, spring mounts are now attached, both of them. Now we've got to put on shock mounts. Just going to take off of where this bolts onto as opposed to this, and we can match it up on this one. Alright, so we're doing shock mounts today. I've cut up these brackets which sit here, as you can probably see, and they're going to have a spacer which goes through the bolt where the shock mount will go, and it has a lock nut and a washer on the top. I've just set it up there. It's perfectly level and square to the flange using my little digital thing. So now we're going to weld it on, make a little gusset for there, and then we'll test fit it with the spring mounts, the shock mounts, and if it all fits, Panhard Bar, then we can paint it and leave it in there for good. So we're making some pretty good progress. We'll pull the motor out soon as well. Got some piston rings, bearings and stuff. We're going to give it a freshen up while we're there. Anyway, let's weld this on and see what it looks like. What's your eyes, dude? Mm-hmm. Alright, that's it. In the car, got all the brackets on there. We had to put a washer, a big nut to space it out just a little bit, so I will have to do something about that, make up something better. But it looks good. So it's going to be. Now we've just got to finally weld this up. Now we know it all fits with the shock, and then make a Panhard Bar bracket, and then that rounds it up. Then put the sway bar on it, and you know, still a bit to do, but we're getting through it. So we've had it back in the car. Fits fine. This the Panhard Bar has to come out from here. Has to come out 55 mil. Make a bracket up thing for that, so that should be fine. Shock's going very well, so I'm just going to weld these up and put a little gusset here for strength. We put the discs on, but since we want to use these rims, the standard ones, they don't fit. This the center of the hub isn't correct for this, it's too small. So because I have access to a milling machine, I'm going to bore out the back side of this. I have to bore it out about 3 mil, so it's not a lot, just take it out, bore it 10 mil up and 3 mil down. So Just need to like just take it out. But I'll do it on the mill so I know it's perfectly centered. If it's not centered properly, you can snap wheel studs and stuff, so that's it. We do want to use these rims for the street. They are a 175. No, sorry. A 185. So they're pretty big. Should lay some rubber super easy. So that's it. We'll just keep chugging along. Just cut out some little gussets. Kind of going to go there. Support this. Weld it there. Weld the gusset. And put something here. Okay, so what I've gone and done for the Panhard bar is I've cut off the old stud spigoty thing. Welded it onto this plate here. What I have also done is, it's very hot. So 1 sec. Is I've welded it on the underside as well. So I drilled the plate so that way I can add like a gusset onto it. So then it'll weld onto this piece of 3mm box section. And then I'll have a gusset on the inside which will connect to the box, and will also connect to like the diff here, so it should be all strengthened up. Because if you look on this diff, it's got like this support in there to stop all the twist and flick and flex. Whoa. So I think this will work pretty good. Now, I don't think my welds are going to snap. So yeah. Alright, there you have it. Panhard bar mount is welded on. That's it. Diff is getting pretty close now. Okay, we're at my milling machine now. It is a Bridgeport by Adcock Shipley. I bought it from some old guy a couple of years ago now. Really cool. Good thing to have for if you want to make scrap, as they say. I'm using it today. We're going to bore out these wheels. I've already taken the tires off. And now I've got it bolted onto the bed, and I'm machining them out so they can fit the hub on the Skyline diff. It's not too hard to do if you have the proper equipment. I've got this boring bar and a boring head here, and I just have to machine it out. So I'll show you how we do it. So what I've done, I just took a cleaning pass through the whole thing. I only took off like 0.1 of a mil, nothing. And now I've just been taking down the top 10 mil, just a little bit down, so I'm just taking it back, see? You can see that step. Once I unbolt it, I'll be able to get a closer footage, but so that's that one. So this is how the old rims looked. They have that chamfer on them. I know I've machined it all the way with the chamfer off it. So I have to machine it back to 66 mil, I think it was. So I've got a couple more mil to go. So when you're doing something like this, if you're going to machine out a rim, so you have to find the center of the bore using like a dial indicator. Just sweep it around. There's plenty of good videos on YouTube on how to find the center of a hole on a milling machine. If you haven't got a milling machine, probably just take it to a machinist, because you want this to be quite center. I've seen on some cheap, say, import rims where this center doesn't fit and they don't put like a spacer on it properly, and they always snap wheel studs. Back onto the diff. It's almost there. I'm just going to put the LSD Center in now. I've just put on some tabs here to hold the brake lines. So they're all done. And now I just have to pull this plate off and then drop the axles out, and I'll change the center inside the diff. Alright, so I've taken the cover off here, pulled the axles out. This is the LSD Center we will be installing. I don't have any bearings for it because you have to change the bearing with its matching cup. It's the best way to do it, so I'll pull this out and I'll put some new bearings on it. So this is the LSD Center we will be replacing with this open center. The way these ones work, it's not a clutch type really, it's got this like cone piece that locks into the housing. I've sort of recoated it, I've put some new bushes on it. I machined the top down because what happens is they bottom out inside here against where they face, so then they don't lock properly. And I also lapped them in so like they're locking hard. There's also a shim in there to keep it nice and tight. When you're putting them back together, good to have like the axle on standby and sort of pop the axle into it, because what you want to do is line up the splines inside there. Let me get a torch. Is line up those splines because there's two sets, whereas in this one there's just one. So in the LSD there's two sets, which once you've bolted this thing together, it is very hard to spin the cones around. So once that's bolted, you can't really move both spline races. Anyway, so what we have to do now is I've changed those bearings, so I'm just going to take off this gear to match the pinion that's already in the diff. The reason I'm doing that and not changing the ratio is this is, I think it was a 3/8, I can't bother counting them, but it's just what we're going to do. That way I don't have to get a new pinion and stuff around. So when you're taking these gears off, these are left hand threaded bolts, so if you're swinging off it the right way and it's not breaking, that's why. Alright, the cover's back on. Just used some grey elastic stuff. Axles are back in. Just slip them in, put those 4 nuts on. So there you go. Spins very nice with the new bearings and stuff. So I'll let this elastic cure, then I'll take it outside and I'll wash it and then I'll give it a paint. There it is, all painted up, ready to go in. Just gotta let it dry for a while. I think it looks pretty good, the paint job. I'm not a spray painter by any means, but that'll do. It's under the car anyway. Keep the rust off. It's got pretty good gloss to it. Alright, the diff has been installed again. Looks pretty good. I've put the wheels on now, just so I can put it down and roll it around, because I'm going to pull the motor out. It's got the about to build plate there. Some 3D printed brackets to hold the brake lines. Put new pads in it. The only problem with the brakes is I need to put this end onto this side. Thanks for watching this episode, guys. We have to take these wheels back off. That's why I haven't put the center caps on, and that is to bleed the brakes and stuff after we sort out this brake line thing, and then we can put it back down, push it out, take the motor back out, rebuild that, redo the auto as well, like freshen it up, and then get a prop shaft made and drive it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy this episode. Leave me a comment. Leave us a like and a comment if you enjoyed this episode. I'll try and get back to you, and that's about it. Have a good day.